Your legs are lying to you, not failing, not getting older, lying. Because what is happening inside your muscle fibers right now has a name, a mechanism, and most doctors still have not connected the dots, a specific food that directly interrupts it. If you're a woman in your 70s, someone who spent her whole life on her feet, helping other people, working hard, and you grip that handrail in the morning and feel your thighs tremble and burn. After just 3 steps, legs that used to carry you through 10-hour days now feeling like wet sand, that moment is not weakness. That moment is biology. Specific, measurable, and increasingly well understood. The ERIC study, the Atherosclerosis Risk in Communities cohort, tracked 5,985 adults over more than a decade. Here is what they found. Sarcopenia prevalence rises from 5% at age 65 to 36% by age 85. One number. Let it sit. What I'm about to show you in the next 17 minutes could genuinely shift how you think about your body and what breakfast has to do with your independence. Before we go any further, pause here for just a moment. This condition hits differently depending on where you live, how old you are, and which part of your body gives out first. And those 3 things together shape everything about what comes next. I genuinely want to know who is actually watching this. Drop your age, your state, or your country if you're watching from outside the US, and just one word that describes how this shows up in your body right now. One word: is it wobble? H, slow, tired? Whatever your word is, I want to see it. I read every comment personally, and what you tell me shapes what I cover next. Because in a few minutes, I'm going to share something that most people in your exact age bracket have never once been told by their doctor. And it involves a food that is probably already in your kitchen. Sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, affects an estimated 30% of Americans over the age of 60 and up to 50% of those over 80. This is not a fringe condition. Tens of millions of people are losing ground right now, quietly, steadily, without anyone telling them why, and most of them have been told it is simply part of getting older. Think about someone like Carol, a woman who spent nearly 30 years as a physical therapy aide, helping patients rebuild strength after surgeries and injuries. She knew muscle. She understood the body's capacity to heal. And then, quietly, over a few years, she noticed her own thighs trembling on the stairs. She started dreading the walk to the mailbox. She started wondering whether one bad morning, one fall, one moment of weakness would be the moment she had to give up her house and become a burden to her daughter. That fear is not dramatic. It is rational, and it is shared right now by millions of women across this country who have never once been told what is actually driving it. The villain has a name: anabolic resistance. After 60, your muscle cells do not respond to protein the way they did at 40. You can eat the same amount of protein you have always eaten, the same chicken breast, the same eggs, and your muscles will extract far less building material from it. The cellular signal that tells your muscle fibers to repair and grow becomes blunted, quieter, harder to trigger. This is not about discipline. It is not about the gym you have not visited. This is a biological mechanism that shifts after 61. The research community has only recently identified the specific nutritional key to unlock. Most physicians received almost no training in this. The dietary guidance many doctors still repeat, just eat more protein and do some exercise, was built entirely on data from younger adults, never designed for the body you have now at 70, with the biology you're actually working with. Stop for a second. Has your doctor ever told you that the standard recommended protein intake, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, is enough to protect your muscles at your age? Stay with me, because new research directly contradicts that advice when applied to adults over 60 with muscle loss. In 2025, researchers published findings using indicator amino acid oxidation technology to measure actual protein requirements in older adults with sarcopenia aged 65 to 81. What they found will surprise you. The mean recommended nutrient intake for this group was 1.54 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, nearly double the standard dietary guideline most physicians still hand you on a printed sheet without a second thought. But here's where it gets more precise. This was not just about total protein. What they discovered went deeper. to what happens at the cellular level after 60, and to why the same protein that built muscle in your 40s now barely registers in the cells that need it most. Stay with me for 9 more minutes. What you're about to hear will permanently change how you think about breakfast. Think of your muscle cells after 60 like a radio with a damaged receiver. The signal is still being broadcast. Protein from your food is still arriving, but the antenna is degraded, static where there used to be clarity. The station comes in weak, broken, intermittent, and your cells, receiving that noise instead of a clean signal, respond accordingly, doing less with the same input they once used efficiently. The biological mechanism is called the mTORC1 signaling pathway. In younger adults, eating protein activates this pathway strongly, triggering muscle protein synthesis. After 60, aging reduces that activation. The same meal, same food, same quantity, same quality now produces a quieter, shorter, measurably less effective anabolic response than it did 20 years earlier. That is anabolic resistance. Not weakness, not willpower, a measurable cellular change. Some physicians still tell patients that any high-quality protein source in adequate amounts will protect muscle after 60. They are not wrong. They are working with older data, drawn largely from younger populations where the mTORC1 pathway responds reliably to standard protein doses. In aging muscle, a different amino acid acts as the key that actually opens the cellular lock. The amino acid that directly activates the mTOR pathway in older muscle, and that aging bodies require in higher concentrations per meal to trigger meaningful protein synthesis, is leucine. Leucine is a branched-chain amino acid that acts as a direct molecular switch for mTORC1. Research confirms that approximately 3 to 4 grams of leucine per meal is needed to maximally activate muscle protein synthesis in older adults, and most people over 60 only hit that threshold once a day, if at all. Have you ever been told by a doctor to simply eat enough protein? With no mention of leucine, no mention of timing, no mention of how much your cells actually need to hear the signal? Drop that in the comments. In 2023, a study published in Frontiers in Medicine examined leucine-enriched protein supplementation in pre-frail older adults averaging 73 years of age. Participants who received leucine-enriched protein alongside structured activity showed improvements in physical function, body composition, and inflammatory markers compared to those without supplementation. The ESPEN expert group, the European Society for Clinical Nutrition and Metabolism, formally established that protein intake and exercise are the primary anabolic stimuli for muscle protein synthesis in aging, recommending protein targets significantly above the standard RDA for older adults. That position paper has since shaped clinical nutrition guidelines across dozens of countries. The Administration for Community Living, under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, formally states that researchers recommend older adults consume 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day to support muscle health, a threshold meaningfully above the standard 0.8 grams most Americans currently aim for. The specific target, backed by the Protege Study Group and supported by multiple independent research teams, is 25 to 30 grams of high-quality, leucine-rich protein per meal, not per day, per meal, with at least 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in each sitting, because that is the threshold at which the mTOR switch in aging muscle actually fires. The food that delivers this most efficiently, most affordably, and with the highest leucine concentration per gram of protein is whey protein, specifically leucine-enriched whey. Not a supplement in the gym sense. 1 glass, whey mixed into water or milk at breakfast, carrying exactly the leucine load your muscle needs to respond. The Liverpool Hope University Sarcopenia Aging Trial, a randomized controlled trial, used leucine-enriched whey protein 3 times per day at 0.50 grams per kilogram of body weight per meal for 16 weeks in community-dwelling older adults. The specific leucine load, hitting that threshold every single time, produced measurable, documented changes in people just like you. Start with one change. 1. Before you add anything else, add 1 serving of leucine-rich whey protein at breakfast within 30 minutes of waking. Every morning, for 14 consecutive days. That is the single highest leverage window, because muscle protein synthesis rates are lowest after an overnight fast and most responsive to a leucine signal in the morning. Once that is solid, add a second leucine-rich protein source at your largest meal. A 200-gram serving of full-fat cottage cheese delivers approximately 1.7 grams of leucine, making it one of the highest whole-food leucine sources available. After 4 weeks, add a short walk after your protein-rich meals, even 10 minutes. Post-meal movement increases muscle uptake of amino acids. One specific mistake quietly cancels everything else: spreading protein thinly across the day in small amounts. A little at breakfast, a little at lunch, a little at dinner, none of it ever crossing the leucine threshold, none of it ever reaching the signal strength your mTOR pathway requires. Every week that pattern continues, your muscles wait for a signal that never arrives at full strength. For someone like the woman I described at the start, dealing with thighs that tremble and burn after just a few steps, research on leucine-enriched protein supplementation in pre-frail older adults shows that within 6 weeks of consistent threshold-dose leucine intake, participants demonstrated measurable improvements in lower limb physical function and reduced markers of muscle inflammation. Not a complete reversal, not the body at 45. That is not what the research promises, and promising it would be dishonest. What the research does support is this: feeling more stable on those stairs within 6 weeks, gripping that handrail and noticing your legs do not give out the same way. Feeling less afraid of the mailbox at 71, not because something dramatic happened, because one specific cellular switch finally started firing the way it was designed to. That is what this is about. Control, evidence-based, earned, yours. You now know what anabolic resistance actually is. Not a vague sense of getting older, a measurable, documented change in how your muscle cells respond to protein. You understand that the standard protein guideline of 0.8 grams per kilogram was never designed for your body after 60. And you know that leucine, not just protein, leucine specifically at a threshold dose at the right time, is the molecular key that aging muscle actually needs to hear the signal. Start this morning, not tomorrow. Add 1 serving of leucine-rich whey protein within 30 minutes of waking today. Research on older adults with anabolic resistance shows that most notice measurable changes in lower body stability and morning strength within 4 to 6 weeks of consistent threshold dose leucine intake. Come back here and tell me when you feel it. Every week, I publish new research at this same depth with the same verification standard. No vague claims, no unnamed studies, no advice built for someone 30 years younger than you. If this video helped, make sure you are subscribed. The algorithm does not always surface my next video automatically. The next video covers a condition affecting roughly 40% of people over 60 that directly accelerates muscle loss and makes the leucine threshold harder to reach. Most people have absolutely no idea it is happening inside them right now. You will want that one. Take good care of yourself because you have more than earned that.